Hi there. This is Improve Your English Writing Feedback Part 2. So I did an earlier video with some feedback for an excellent student, and now she is proving that she's an excellent student by having a good, effective dialogue with her teacher. So what does dialogue mean? It means having a conversation, asking questions, and that's what teachers like to see. We like to see active students who are trying to learn more and more. So last time we looked at her first draft, her first attempt. And sometimes it's important to keep trying to improve a piece of writing. So let's look at the questions that she sent me, and of course my job is to try to answer them as clearly as I can. Okay, so her first question asks, in the first sentence, I agreed with you to add leads to as a verb before experiences. But I'm not quite clear when you explain that there is a verb needed here, because actually she thought experiences was already working as a verb. Okay, so let's try to clear this up. So when we think about our sentences, our basic sentence structure, we need to think about our subject and does it match with our verb. So it's very important we begin with our subject, which is the cycle of life. So the cycle of life starts, or the phrasal verb starts up. That's very clear. That's what happens. Originally, she had said then experiences. So here, as a native speaker, I'm reading experiences as a plural countable noun. So to me, it doesn't look like a verb here, and if it did, it wouldn't match the cycle of life. In the cycle of life, we experience getting old, sickness, and death. Okay? But the cycle of life is the subject is not having the experience. Therefore, as a verb, this doesn't match. So what does match with the cycle of life? The cycle of life leads to, gives us, or provides experiences. Okay, so that one's relatively easy. But what is the point that my student needs to take is that subject and verb agreement are important. Not only that they must be the correct number, but also that the subject must actually do or act out this verb as well. Okay, so let's look at the second question. I have tried to use the word decided for the moment of birth and death to emphasize that it is out of control, as decided by someone or something. Okay, so let's start with that first. I know I put in this earlier. So, death is decided by each person's lifespan. I said I wasn't completely happy with this verb because our death is not decided by our lifespan, really. Our lifespan is decided more by our death. And we could say it's decided by our fate. So once again, does the subject appropriately match the verb? Death brings about the end of our lifespan, but it doesn't actually decide our lifespan. So this, I know what my student is trying to do. She's using figurative language. This means language to create an image, and it works. It's not completely wrong. But I think it would be better to change the order and say each person's lifespan is decided by the moment of their death. So if we can make it more specific, if we can make it clearer, that would make it better. And let's think of some other verbs we could use. Each person's lifespan is decided, or death is dictated. Okay? Now, dictated means that it's strongly enforced or strongly controlled. Now, it's not our lifespan that's dictating with death, it's more the end of our lifespan. So that might make things a little bit clearer. Okay, so once again, we're thinking about how well does our subject match with our verb. And that's why last time I said it's okay, but it doesn't sound completely natural or perfect to me. So sometimes we make choices on style and how they feel to the reader. And here's another example, talking about the reader's feeling or the impression that they get from your writing. So, my student has said, when I used the word reduce, I had meant the quantity of disease and sickness can be reduced. The word lighten, which is here, was used to mean how serious the disease or sickness is. Now that's very clear here because there are more words. The sentences are expanded, giving the reader more information. So whenever you can, in English writing, we try to explain things as clearly as we possibly can. Imagine that your writer is stupid. Sometimes things that you can see in your head are not clear to the reader. So we can try to get old slowly and to reduce, originally it was or lighten. So my suggestion was we don't really need lighten here. The reason is, I said, was because this word is redundant, okay? And that is because it's very similar to reduce. So it sounds like we are repeating the same word. So in order to make your words not redundant, we have to think about how we use them. In this sentence, reduce and lighten are very similar. So if I say reduce sickness, this can mean reduce the quantity of sickness, the number of times we're sick, but it can also reduce the extent. So that means the time, how long we have the disease and how serious. So we're talking about reducing the seriousness of the disease. So that's one point. The other point is, if I want to create a difference between quantity and between the seriousness or the level of our sickness, then it's better to make that clearer. So how can we do that? We can use synonyms, similar words. So if we say reduce the quantity of our illnesses or our sickness, then we can also say lighten the seriousness of any diseases that we might catch. So by changing the words, not just using sickness, we can use illness, or if we're describing it in the plural form, we can use illnesses. This makes it clearer for the reader. And that, my friends, is your job as the writer, to try to make things as clear as possible for the reader. Okay, now we have one more point here. And this is, last time she was writing, I changed a gerund verb, which I've written an example here so that we can understand what is a gerund. It's a verb that we've changed into a noun. It's acting as a noun, and therefore it can be the subject of the sentence. So let's describe our gerund as a verbal noun, and we can identify them by a verb that has this ing form. Now be careful, because it could also be the continuous form of the verb. I am following. So here we are talking about a noun, and we're talking about a noun, and so we can use it as the subject of our sentence. So my student has said, I recalled my writing last time that I used appearing, and you corrected it into the appearance of. And then she explains some more about how she is now confused. So once again, we need to think about, what is our noun doing? What is our subject doing? So originally my student said the appliance of a healthy lifestyle. I changed this and said, if we're going to use this word form, apply, it would be better to use the noun that means to apply something. So the application, and it should be the application of a healthy lifestyle. Now 2 points here. First of all, to me that sounds a little bit awkward. So that means I need to think, what exactly does she mean here? Because we don't often use this word. It's not the collocation, the words that go together, that we would use. We would normally use follow a healthy lifestyle or lead a healthy lifestyle. So that's why I've chosen following. Okay. Now we need to think about, what is our subject doing? If I say following a healthy lifestyle, that means people should, can follow a healthy lifestyle. If we think about the verb where she had the problem last time, appearing, okay, if we're still talking about health, we might say, for example, a disease, sorry, my typing's, a disease appears. A disease appears. Now a disease appears, this is something that grows up in our body. When it appears, we see it. Okay? So we don't say appearing a disease. Okay? We can use it as the disease appears, but the verb here is not really doing an action. It's describing something that we can see. If we go back to the other verbs, following a healthy lifestyle, we're actively doing something. So if we think about gerunds, we need to think about, what are they doing in the sentence? So appearing a disease doesn't sound right. It doesn't make sense, because the disease, yes, it is appearing, but it's appearing in front of our eyes. It's something that we can see. We're doing the action. Whereas when we follow a healthy lifestyle, we get good sleep, we eat the right food, we do healthy exercise. So with your gerunds, think about the way the word is acting within the sentence. So I hope that helps to make things clearer, and I will be checking if my student has any other questions after this. So remember, the feedback process is an important part of developing your writing skills.